Every time we do that, I just feel like we're doing the intro to iCarly.
I only remember like her like face. Have you seen the picture of like them pretending to hold the camera, but it's actually like a dude with a big ass fucking camera? Have you seen it?
Freddie's sitting there like with a fake camera on him.
And it's like this dude with this big ass massive like camera like just pointing at him, and he's just like pretending to hold it.
I have seen it, but I had also forgotten about it.
So I just ruined your life?
Yeah, you did. What's new?
Happy Saturday.
What are we talking about today?
I was trying to go on Reddit and pull up like advice things.
Oh my god, I should grab my laptop and do that right now.
I got like 2 of them. We can look at some of them right now, but some of them are like really long to read, and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna read that.
Bro, I watched. I always get the "Am I the Asshole" videos that other podcasts do on my TikTok, and that shit is the last one I got. I feel like I even like tried to like save it because I was like, this is just fucking wild. But there is a Reddit account. Let me see if I can fucking find it. It was just like something ridiculous. This girl straight and this girl not. This girl not. This girl not. Anyway. I can't find it.
Let's go through banter first, man. The biggest news of the week is that.
Let's go to what?
Through banter. Just talking. The biggest news of the week is fucking Rihanna about to stop making music for the rest of her life.
Fuck off. Don't say that.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Why would you say that?
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Why would you literally say that? You're so fucked up for that.
Can I mention something?
What's up? What's going on?
News of the day. Drake unfollowed Rihanna and ASAP.
Is that like confirmed? I did see it. I saw it like a day ago that he allegedly did that.
Yeah, apparently
Just
people
like
are,
I don't like
snooping
the fact that we
on
have
that.
to talk about Drake when we talk about Rihanna having a baby.
Like, we talked about Drake having
like,
hot sauce on his thing,
fuck
and then...
Like, he's been playing. First of all, I don't like commenting on like people's like relationships. Oh, is the battery dying?
Oh, we're
gonna
two
start that
different
over.
people, my friend.
No. Oh, okay. My bad. I just got that out. Yeah, just be mindful of the monitor battery. Yeah. Yeah, I hate the fact that we have to talk about Drake whenever we talk about her relationship, because
I agree.
he's just like, he made it so obvious that he was trying to like flirt with her and be like, make it all public and shit, and like
He literally
after like years she was like, yo,
confessed
bye. Like,
he like confessed his fucking love for her and whatever awards. I don't remember which ones, but and she like dabbed.
Yeah.
He was like, I've always been in love with you. You're the love of my life. And she was like,
yeah, okay.
I was like, oh,
okay.
I would kill myself.
Yeah.
And she's an Aries. What do you expect?
And
you
who
can't
knows?
do that to
Hey,
her.
I'm an Aries.
Yeah, I know. An Aries woman and an Aries man are not the same thing.
Oh, I don't know anything about the stars like that. So.
Yeah, I know you don't. I'm surprised you weren't like, don't start with that shit right now.
I know, but I just wanted to.
You're learning.
I just wanted to be like Rihanna for a little bit.
I have news for you.
No, so he spent so much time trying to like woo her, I guess, and who knows what happened behind the scenes. But after, like, bro, like, why I don't want to talk about Drake.
Well,
I'm talking about Rihanna. First of all, congratulations,
like,
Rihanna.
Oh my God.
Congratulations,
the most
Rihanna.
beautiful pregnant woman I have ever seen in my entire life. I could start crying right now.
Congratulations, you're about to have Little Miss or Mr. or Mrs.
Do you think
A$AP
it's a
Fenty.
girl because she was wearing a pink puffer?
Oh, you're gonna read into it like that. She just likes the pink puffer.
She looks amazing in that pink puffer. Amazing. Anyway,
A$AP Fenty's coming in 9 months.
I wonder, like, I know that she's not gonna give us any fucking information. Like, she's about to like Kylie Jenner her ass through this fucking pregnancy,
Props
and
to
I
that.
respect it, and
Props to
that
that.
is what she should do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you gotta put you first. But man, I want to know so much. Y'all know I'm nosy.
I am super happy for her and A$AP, and you know, I don't really.
She looks amazing.
We
and
stopped
he's
getting
there.
A$AP Rocky music a long time ago, and I'm kind of cool with that. Like, whatever.
I used to really like him, but he apparently like became problematic, and then I was like, I'm happy for her.
I think he became problematic whenever they were talking about like at least in the hip hop sphere, he became problematic when they were talking about like the rappers dying and stuff, and he was all like, bro, don't talk to me about that shit. I'm a rapper. And like, it was a little tone deaf for the culture, but other than that, like, it's not a big deal.
I was not talking about that.
Oh,
I don't know shit about that.
Okay. You mean like problematic, like on a
yeah,
societal
like
level.
he's been like, I think I'm not sure exactly what he has said, but I know within like the black community, like he's made like comments that have been like colorist, you know, and just like favoring like lighter skinned women over like dark skinned black women. And so people in the black community were like, what the fuck? But I was never really like a fan, you know? I mean, whenever they started dating, I was like, that makes sense, you know? Like, he's beautiful. She's beautiful.
I'm going to push back on it just a tiny bit. I
don't need to hear it.
I don't
need to hear it.
I've never understood the ASAP Rocky obsession. Like in terms
That's
of looks.
fine.
But, you know.
That's fine.
Yeah, it is.
I also feel like he was like a fashion man and like he was really into that. And really I feel like
that drove it.
That I mean a little bit. I feel like there weren't that. I'm thinking of like I obviously know that there were men that were like really into fashion before A$AP Rocky and before like Harry Styles and like all these people. But depending on like what medium they were in, like it was still like, you know, like that's crazy. Like we don't really see that much. And I think rappers, like, there's a sense of style that comes with that culture, too. But I just 100%. Think he kind of, like, stepped out of that. And I think people like that he was, like, more, like, feminine. And he wasn't, like, afraid to be feminine in some ways.
Got it.
But again, I mean, I could be pulling all of this straight out of my ass if I'm honest.
I heard he was, like, I have heard women call him gorgeous.
Well,
even before
beautiful.
The fashion thing, but like I think other men are like fucking other.
Have you seen him smile?
But I'm only. I think I'm like he's definitely so on an island with this one.
Maybe
100% because almost every woman that I talk to, I'm like, yeah, like what's your take on A$AP Rocky? And they're like, that's a beautiful man, and I'm like, okay, well maybe I just
man. Objectively, that is a beautiful man.
Like him over Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan is like,
you know,
I mean, he's beautiful too. There's just number one, there's no need to compare. You know what I mean?
But I want to compare.
I don't want to compare. Why not both?
Well, I mean, yeah, if you want to.
But
¿Por qué
like,
no los dos?
That's exactly like that's like they're both beautiful in their own way.
Sure.
But also like like I feel like Michael B. Jordan has more of like a hot like you know.
Yeah, I guess so. There's a nuance to A$AP maybe. Enough for Rihanna to be like, yo, that's baby daddy.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like, honestly, I was kind of rooting for her when she was dating that billionaire. Do you remember?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. That was also a beautiful man. That was a beautiful man.
Really? I don't remember the way he looked.
Beautiful. Like, gorgeous.
Do we like A$AP Rocky and Rihanna together?
I want Rihanna to be happy. And if she's happy, then I'm happy. Whatever she wants. Whatever Rihanna wants, Rihanna gets.
I haven't really seen a whole bunch of conflict or anything. So
because I feel like people love Rihanna so much, you know what I mean? Yeah. That they have that sense of it's like, you know what? I don't care about him. If she's happy,
well, and that's the thing exactly. Like, I mean, she is a queen, so she deserves somebody that is, you know, holding her to that standard.
Top notch, yeah.
But
who am I to say?
And like, I haven't seen any kind of drama when I just.
The biggest drama he got into recently was that he went to jail in Sweden.
It was
and Trump bailed him out.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something beautiful about everyone just rooting for Rihanna. Just
that
like
is
the power that she has. You know what I mean? Because we're talking about this, and if it was any other celebrity, like I would for sure have fucking opinions about their baby daddy. Not that I like, you know, like that's none of my fucking business at the end of the day.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like I feel like people would be so much like quicker to be like, fuck that or whatever. Like I can't believe that she's with him. Like it doesn't make sense. Like she deserves better or whatever. Yeah. Not to say that like A$AP Rocky doesn't deserve her, you know. But still, I feel like people would be more defensive if it was anyone else. But because it's Rihanna, we're like, you know what? I'm so happy for her.
Okay.
I also think it's
so, yeah, we just pulled up a picture of this man.
Of this billionaire?
Okay, A$AP is cute, but
I was gonna. You just showed.
Let me see. Like,
well,
the thing.
That doesn't look like. Did I imagine him differently? Did I remember him differently?
He's a Saudi businessman.
Yeah, he's rich.
Gorgeous.
Rich. There we go.
I wonder what happened.
Here, I'll put. No.
And them together, they are beautiful side by side.
Like those pictures of them, whenever those first pictures leaked, and that's how people found out about the relationship, and they were like on vacation. I was like, wow, that's a beautiful couple. That's a stunning couple.
What a power move. And what a power move on Rihanna's part to not go with somebody that's in the like celebrity American limelight. You know what I mean?
I did
like what a fucking power move. Like, oh, y'all think those are the only guys? Oh, y'all think those are y'all think those guys are the only ones making moves?
He is beautiful.
Like there's people out here making moves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like your girl Riri, you know?
Like all these like basic American like
money phone over here with your Maybach like Mercedes in your music video. Like, nah, I got, you know, the owner of the fucking Burj Khalifa out here.
I mean, she ended up getting.
I know she ended up with Rocky.
Obviously,
so
but
you know, maybe it was like Rocky's from Harlem.
Can y'all
Barbados
imagine what that baby's gonna look like? Imagine like Rihanna's baby.
It better be a pretty baby.
Imagine the pregnancy, like the maternity pictures.
It better be a pretty baby.
Look, let me tell you something. I respect Jay and Bay, but Jay,
that's not it.
It's
not it.
That's what I mean. It's
but
like Beyonce, like people write her so
their
strong, but like people are like,
beautiful.
it makes you are on fucking thin ice. Jay-Z took the fucking lottery. Like,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like you ain't shit, and like don't think we have forgotten just because we love your wife.
Well, I will say though,
what do you mean? He's the best rapper to ever live.
And let me
Number one, nobody gives a fuck about that when it comes to Beyonce. Like nobody is like, oh, but he's the best. It's like he cheated on her, and he's not cute enough to be doing that shit.
But let me just say, because based off
video was fucking fire.
Beyonce's music speaks for itself. She talk about that like it's nobody's business.
Yeah, but 444 was also like incredibly telling.
No,
his
yeah,
part,
but like almost
his part of it.
Of the remorse, hey, guess what? If you don't want to feel remorse, don't cheat on your fucking wife, and then you won't have to make a whole album about it.
Was it like a legit cheating, or I thought it was just like he like
legit cheating?
I thought it was like he flirted with some girl at a party or something.
What are you talking? You make up these stories
about,
in your
like,
head.
I might just be pulling it out of my head.
I'm talking about the fact that like all of Beyonce's music talks about how much loving that man be giving on her, and how like physical love he giving to her.
Yeah,
and it's like.
Hey, but you don't know what it like. They might have like a great
No. What I'm saying is, all like Jay got something that Bay wants, and and that she appreciates out of him, and it's probably something that tells to her love language.
100%.
So like you know, he may look and do whatever it may be, but if Bay want it,
in terms of Jay and Bay, the weirdest thing at first, whenever they started,
just like the fact that y'all are calling them Jay and Bay, like it took me so long to figure out who the fuck y'all were talking about. I was like, what?
The very first thing that I thought whenever they started was the age difference, because he's a lot older than her. But at the same time, I was like, well, I don't know, that's like a power move too. Like if you're Beyonce or if you're Jay-Z, like, and you're trying to find somebody, you're trying to relate to somebody, like somebody at that caliber, at that level of fame, at that level of like, you know, professionalism in the music.
Grooming.
Huh?
I said that is just grooming. Again, Beyonce is another one that you're just like, you write for. You know what I mean? It's like you cannot say shit about them. And she's just so smart and so strong and so beautiful. But like, I understand why there's like, I guess, more nuance when it comes to stuff like those age differences in like the industry. But I feel like that's just like another fucking excuse for older men to like groom younger girls. You know what I mean?
When they started dating, she was like 28. So like it wasn't like she was like super young.
I mean, sure, but still, like there's a big difference.
I think he was like 40 something, and she was like.
That's what I'm saying. It's like. Yeah.
But she's 28. That's a grown woman.
She's an adult. I get that.
You know what I mean? Like I'm sure you could groom a 28-year-old.
They got married at 27. She was 27.
Oh, okay.
So that means that their relationship
started before then. Oh, okay, cool.
I also think, I mean, grooming is something that happens regardless of age. Sometimes it's more about mindset. So like. Yeah, and yes, it is definitely a possibility because of age. Like oftentimes
I feel like grooming is specifically about like different age, like an age difference in relationships. Because otherwise, isn't that just like manipulation?
I thought grooming was more about emotional maturity. Because
again, you're making shit.
No, I'm saying that's how I interpret it, because you could be a very mature, emotionally mature 23-year-old, and like you could be a very like emotionally immature 30-year-old, and it won't matter.
Let's see. It says grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or young person. So
exactly.
So they can manipulate.
Like,
but so she wasn't a child.
This idea that like, oh, there are 23-year-olds that are so emotionally and like mentally like way more mature than any 23-year-old. It's just literally like what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? It's just like just a grooming practice too. Like that's some shit.
Yeah, but
that
you can't groom a
people
23-year-old. That's not a child. That
I mean,
per the definition, you can't groom a 23-year-old.
Right.
You can emotionally manipulate them, but you can't groom them.
Yeah, but I think people have started to like use that for like for people that are like in their 20s, for example, because I'm like, I understand that like legally, if you're like above 18, like you're a child, but if you're 21 years old and another person is like 38, they're grooming you, baby. Like you might not be a child, but that's exactly what they're doing because they're preying on your immaturity.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they're preying on that age.
That's why I'm saying like emotional maturity. That's why I bring that up, because again, at least in that specific stance, I've known people that were younger than other people, and they completely dominate that entire relationship. And there is there's no way around it. They dominate it. They get everything that they possibly want out of that relationship, like this. And it's not. It's because they're more emotionally mature.
I mean,
they can control their emotions a lot better. They can also use certain things to their advantage. Like they fucking run that shit. Which all the power to them. I'm just saying, like, you know, I feel
like that's a possibility. Like somebody that's younger can do that. I feel like it's a little bit trickier to like claim that if there's like such a big like age difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, going back to Jay-Z, Beyonce, A$AP Rocky, Rihanna, like I am happy for Ree.
I'm so happy.
I think it's gonna be great. But I am not happy that this means no more Rihanna music.
I don't want to think about that.
That's exactly what that means.
She said that?
Well, no, she said a year ago that she was working on the album. She said that and Auntie is like a fucking classic.
Like,
so
she's been working on that damn album for like 4 fucking years.
Like, well, that's the thing.
Beyonce did.
And then she's gonna go on tour while she's with a newborn.
Well, she probably won't go on tour. But you don't think that
there's a lot of people that put out albums without going on tour, though.
But I want her to go on tour.
Well, yeah, we all want a lot from her, Jimenez, but like if all we get is a fucking album, then all we get is a fucking album, and we're gonna be grateful.
I hope we get an album because I've been waiting on that shit for years.
And a baby, because that baby's gonna be.
Because also like she's been working on the album. This is just my optimism, and I know I'm about to sound dumb as hell because I know she's not gonna be fucking releasing music, but she has been working on the album for a really long time, so there is a chance that the album is kind of done and that it won't really like, you know, like seep into like her pregnancy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Some people were saying that they were really hoping that her being pregnant would get her to like, I want to finish this up so that I don't have to worry about this.
I don't think that's what's going to happen. You know? I don't think that
I want a Rihanna album so bad.
If she does it, it's going to be like, oh, well, the album is basically done. You know what I mean? And like, it doesn't require, it's not demanding as much from her.
Maybe.
I don't think she's going to do it to be like, they're waiting for the album. And now she doesn't give a fuck.
She's a billionaire now. She
don't give a fuck.
And she's not on a recording contract. So she's not with Def Jam or whoever it is that Atlantic or whatever whoever else she was with. So she's not on that contract anymore. From what I remember, so she can drop it whenever. But I just fucking give me a fucking, because that man. I also don't know how you can top Love on the Brain. Like and you know what I mean? Like that shit came out of nowhere. I have
such vivid memories of like the minute that Auntie like came out. Auntie? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, that's Auntie. Yeah.
Okay.
Or I
always had read it in my head differently. I don't think I've ever said it out loud, and then that just felt wrong. Anyway, I have such vivid memories of like when that album came out, and like just oh my god, just like riding in my friend's car listening to that shit over like the winter time. Oh, like
yeah, I thought Love on the Brain fucking floored me because the second verse, and when you go like do you know who Norah Jones is?
No.
Okay. Go listen to Norah Jones. She's phenomenal. She's a jazz singer. Okay, the second verse of Love on the Brain, I could have sworn the first time that I heard it, I was like, is this Norah Jones? And I'm like, yo, a Rihanna Norah Jones collaboration right now is fucking making my entire life.
She can do it all.
But it wasn't Nora Jones.
It wasn't.
It was fucking Rihanna. And it was Rihanna with changing her voice and like singing in that way. Good. And I was like, you sound like she sounds identical to Nora Jones. And I was all like, that fucking level of like, it's like when Michael Jackson got like super high pitch on Butterfly. Like, oh my God, like it fucking floored me. And so then I heard the album, Work is on there, Needed Me is on there. Like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, and I know that album's not targeted to me, but I fucking bumped it. I don't give a fuck. Like, that shit was fucking raw. It was good.
It was just so fucking good. That album is like, there's like always music that I've always listened to, and so I don't necessarily like remember like, you know, the impact of or whatever, just like music that I grew up with. But like, that is one of the albums that I'm like, I remember when the fucking album dropped. I remember like all the times that I listened to it. Like, I remember all the memories that like, I remember like that Everything. Album has like an era in and of its own. Like, in my 100%. Life. You know what I mean?
Do you think, like subconsciously, do you think that the word? I mean, I know people love Rihanna. We all love Rihanna. But do you think there's like a subconscious thing inside people that are even more happy with her about this news because of her turmoil with Chris Brown? Like, do you think that that's in the back of people's heads? Like, baby girl, you've been through so much. Like, fucking W.
I
like,
think people always...
You know what I mean?
But I think that's just people wanting to root for Rihanna because they saw, like, so much bad shit happen to her. I think there's a part of that. But I also think that a lot of people are like, we don't give a damn about Chris Brown. Like, we don't need to keep talking about him and what he did to Rihanna because, number one, stop giving that man clout. Just drop him. Just stop fucking talking about him. Stop listening to his fucking music.
That's fair.
I think that's also why people are like...
You don't listen to Chris Brown music?
No.
At all?
No.
It was never your shit?
I literally have him blocked on Spotify. Like, I don't know. Yeah, you can block people on Spotify. Yeah, I found that out. I would always skip, like, you know, sometimes, like, one of his songs, he would collaborate with somebody.
But, like, do you not like him from the jump, or do you not like him for the Rihanna thing?
No, I just don't support abusers.
It just point blank, period.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's it.
Okay.
And it's not just for like the Rihanna thing, like, which is what people love like to like talk. It's like Rihanna and like everyone that came after her. You know, it's like if you almost kill somebody, like, I don't know, I'm not listening to your fucking music. What is this? What?
Interesting.
You know what I mean? It's like if I knew that like the owner of the bakery down the street is an abuser, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna go get some conchas. I would be like, no, I'm not fucking buying from him.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's like music is art, but that's also just a service. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
you could choose not to participate in the service. Yeah.
Like, no artist is that fucking good. You know what I mean? No artist is that fucking good. To like bend my moral backbone? No, I'm good. I'm okay.
People still listen to R. Kelly.
I know, and it's insane. It's insane.
Who else? People still fuck with Chris.
People still fuck with Chris Brown. People still listen to Tekashi, and they make fucking collaborations with him.
Yeah,
like, there's so many fucking...
Hate him.
There's so many fucking, like, artists, that people, like, they just love to excuse it. And it's always men, and why? Like, what are they doing for you? They gave you a pop song?
Specifically with music, they might be able to detach the art from the person.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you just, like, to me, and that, it, like, I am very, like, black and white about it, because it is that fucking, like...
For you, yeah.
Like, that fine line for me, where it's, like, I don't, it's not that I can separate myself from the artist, is that I don't want, that's so weird. I don't want to do that because I'm still, to do that is for me to be like, I am okay with the things that they did because I'm still supporting them.
Interesting.
You can't separate the art from the artist because if you support their art, you support the artist. That's how it is. Again, like if there is like a business near me, let's say a car wash or whatever the fuck, and I know that the owner is like an abuser, or I know that the owner committed like murder, whatever the fuck it is that they did,
right,
and I don't think that's right, I'm probably gonna not go to that fucking car wash. I'm gonna go to another one. You know what I mean? Like,
and you said that it's always men, but what about, like, how do you feel about Cardi B?
How do I feel about her?
What did she do?
What did she do?
Wasn't it Cardi B that, like, used to be a stripper, and she straight up like
she drugged that guy one time or whatever, and like stole his watch and shit like
stuff,
that.
Like, and
allegedly,
they said they like used to do it.
I don't know.
Like
I don't know anything about the story.
Another stripper.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's always men. I think it's just so much more fucking common for male artists
to be apologists.
To get away, to get away with shit and still like have support. I didn't know that about Cardi B.
Maybe
I don't know the in depth of it or whatever, but I do remember what you were saying. The way that I feel about that is that it's always nuanced. Like it's I can separate myself, like separate the artist from the person, and it's specifically with music. There's such a way that you receive music in the time of your life that like sometimes I'll listen to I'll still listen to a Chris Brown song every now and then, and when I listen to it, I'm not necessarily thinking about Chris Brown. I'm thinking about the moment in my life whenever I heard this song. I understand that like by proxy, if I listen to one Spotify, like if I give him one Spotify stream, he might get 0.00000 whatever of a penny of in royalties one day. You know, I understand that, but I also don't know how his record contract is set up, so I don't know if he actually receives any of that or if the record company does it or like that.
It's not even about like percentages or like Chris Brown is somebody. It's like
I wouldn't go to his show, but I wouldn't go to his show because I don't want to go see Chris Brown live.
Sure,
because I just
but
don't
any
care
kind
about
of like if you stream his music once, it's not about like how much he's gonna get in money. It's also just about you're upholding his career. You know what I mean? To me, I'm like, there are certain things to me that again are like black or white. There are certain things to me that I don't apologize, like I am not going to make excuses for, and that to me there is no nuance to them. Like abuse, I don't find nuance in that. Violence, I don't fucking find nuance in that. Rape, I don't find nuance in that. So I am not willing to be like, are there
tiers for you, or is it all on the same line?
What do you mean?
Like, are there tiers for like the kind of the offense that you commit, or is it all for you? It's like all at the same baseline.
I mean,
because I say that to say one thing.
But what do you like? Are there tiers for like the level of violence that they use, or like the
no, just abuse? Offenses. Like you put rape and you put rape.
Sure.
You put like are there? Do you find that there's tiers in that, or any kind of abuse period? You're just like that. That was
yeah, like abuse, like as a whole, done. Like I don't.
That's
like,
your baseline.
Because I am, if I don't.
Because that goes into like the cancel culture thing.
Those are my those my views on that are very like
clear, cut and dry.
Clear, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like I am not willing to like bend that for anyone or anything, even if it is to like whenever I was younger, I listened to Chris Brown. Yeah. And then I grew up and I found out what he did, and I was like, no, I don't want to keep giving you a fucking career, because if I keep listening to your music, it doesn't matter that you're only getting a fucking penny out of that. The point is that I keep giving you the chance to be a musician and to like have this huge fucking platform that you don't fucking deserve and that you shouldn't fucking have. You know what I mean? Like monetary, like sure, he could retire right now, never have another career, and he would be set for life. That doesn't matter. The point is that I'm giving this man a platform and he shouldn't have one.
I find the whole cancel, because that goes into a little bit of like cancel culture and stuff, and I have a complicated viewpoint on that because of the fact that I don't think cancel culture should exist without a redemption culture, and that's why I'm asking you about the tiers, because I do think what Chris Brown did was fucked up, and I don't approve of that whatsoever, but I'm also not like the arbiter of moral standard to some degree, and for the majority of people, or for a very large majority of people, especially in the black community, they did, for quote unquote, forgive him because he still had a career. He was still able to flourish. Right. Afterwards.
There's a lot of people that you literally can tweet at any point, at any time of the day, something about like supporting like or looking for like. You can look comments on Chris Brown. There's gonna be millions of people defending him, and that's always.
I'm not gonna defend what he did.
But I'm saying people are always gonna like not defend in the sense that they're like like what he did wasn't that bad. It's just that they're gonna be like, it was so long ago, and like you'll never give him a chance to like change. Which number one, if we're talking specifically about Chris Brown, he doesn't have like again. Whenever we started talking about this, I was like, it isn't just the Rihanna thing. There's like there's a plethora of other like issues that he has had. Like
This
he
is
has
true.
a pattern
This is true.
of
Yeah.
violence and abuse.
Yeah,
That's a
he
fact.
He
Like,
has a
that
pattern
is
of
part
that.
of like who he is.
Well,
that is never going to change.
What I'm saying is that at one point, or the reason why I did not jump on that bandwagon, like even, well, first of all, whenever that happened, I wasn't aware of those kinds of things in general. But like the reason I didn't jump on that bandwagon is because in my life, in my personal life, the people that I grew up around, the people that also positively affected my life, they weren't perfect either. And there, at some point, they might have had. I mean, I grew up in the ghetto, so like there were people. I was around drug dealers and people that just got out of jail for felonies, and people that just got out of the penitentiary for murder and like this and that. So but some of those people had really valuable things to teach. So to some degree, there, in my mind, there has to be some sort of redemption past the cancel. And I'm not saying give them the career. I'm not saying like they should have a career. They should be able to continue doing and be like, make millions of dollars. But there has to be, or at least in my opinion, it would be great if attached to cancel culture in terms of nuance and in terms of like degree of offense, there was also a redemption culture to go parallel with that. Because even though I do agree with you, Chris Brown fucked that shit up. Because even if when they did give him a chance to show that he might have had contrition and changed his, and like saw himself in a different light and like really changed his behavior and this and that, he fucked it up because he did have a more pattern of anger issues and things like that. So I do think he fucked it up. But for somebody that might have gone that route, gotten a second chance, and then proved otherwise, I'm not necessarily opposed to being like, okay, well, yeah, like I got you. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
but would you say, okay, so that might work for like a normal person, just like a regular person who's not on the limelight, whatever. But specifically, let's say Chris Brown, because I just looked it up. He has an actual open $28 million case lawsuit against him for drugging and raping women.
Oh, yeah.
And this was just one of the last things that he was like accused of. Now, would you say that this redemption culture coming, because really redemption, that's just called life.
Yeah.
You know, you're just living it, and are you a shitty human being, or are you a person who's just going to do better, right? But as a person in the limelight, I don't really think, do you think that it would matter to these people that have all the money, they have all the power already to actually even be redeemed? Like, do they really care?
Redeemed?
Yeah, do they care?
They should.
But like, I mean, most of the time, I think they don't.
If their morals are already so like tweaked that they would do like that, they have such a pattern of that. It's like, there is like, famous people don't need redemption culture. You know what I mean? Like, they don't need that.
You should know not to do that.
When have you ever known of like an artist that actually like had to face the consequences for what they did and that they lost? Like they actually had to like face like real hard repercussions. You know what I mean? It's like that
relative to what? Like, what do you mean by hard repercussion? Like like repercussions that a normal person might face?
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
That's what
like,
I'm saying.
It's like Martha Stewart went to jail.
Right. And that's like
that sounds like a pretty hard she went to the fucking like
federal
prison. Like, that sounds like a hard repercussion.
Like, they're not normal people. You know what I mean? Like, they don't operate in society like people who don't have millions of fucking money do.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to people like abusers that have a platform, the problem is not that you have fucking money. Rich people exist everywhere. But if you're a shitty person, then you shouldn't be able to influence millions of fucking people across the world. And that's the fucking problem.
Right.
Like, that's the thing with cancel culture. It's not like, I mean, I think that there's a lot of like, I think cancel culture it's not fucking useful, and I think it became like something completely different because cancel culture is just holding fucking people accountable. Like, that's it. That's all that you need to do.
I agree with that.
It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna fucking tweet a hashtag. That's not what like cancel culture is me saying like, I don't want to listen to this person because they're an abuser and I don't fucking support that. Like, that's what it is. And I think it started with people being like, hey, why do you keep supporting abusers? Like, why do we keep fucking doing that? Why do we keep giving them our money and our fucking attention, and we give them these fucking platforms when they don't fucking deserve them?
Well, I guess why I bring up the nuance and the tiers of it all is because now cancel culture has turned into a thing where, like, if you even say something that you're ignorant about, the fucking mob might come after you.
Yeah,
and people might lose their entire livelihood because of something like Whoopi Goldberg. Like Whoopi Goldberg.
What happened? I saw that something happened, but I don't know why.
Whoopi Goldberg was on The View. And she's a host of The View. And I don't know what they were talking. I didn't see the full clip, but essentially she made one little remark that was a small like attachment to her larger point, because she was making a larger point. And in that remark, she said the Holocaust was not about race. The Holocaust was about the inhumanity, like the inhumanity or like the hatred and bigotry of inhumanity. And she then later like went on like an apology, some kind of like apology tour, and then afterwards she gave an apology because she didn't understand why her statement was incorrect or wrong. And the reality of that situation is that she was just ignorant to that fact. So she got suspended from The View, which I think is kind of like a slap on the wrist.
mean, I've always liked she's just like an icon. You know what I mean? Like she's just an icon. Like she's like I've always liked her, but how do you not know that it's about race? That's what I mean. It's like
because this is what she said.
You don't get to go on national TV like in front of millions of people and say that the Holocaust wasn't about race.
Well, because this is what she said. And I'm going to kind of like deconstruct where that mentality comes from, because I do think it's important. She then said, when I think about the Holocaust, I think about white people killing white people. I don't think about white people killing black people. I don't think about white people killing Native Americans or brown people or Muslims or that are a different color than they are. That's the point that she was making. She was ignorant to the fact that Judaism is an ethnocentric religion where a section of sectionality of Jews, especially Ashkenazi Jews, that's the ethnocentric part, the ethno-religic part of that religion. So when you look at their ancestry, it doesn't matter if they convert to Christianity or they convert to whatever religion or they become atheist or agnostic. When they look up their DNA, when they go on like Ancestry or 23andMe or whatever the hell it is, it's gonna say Ashkenazi Jew there. Yeah. So that's the first point. And then the second point is that Hitler himself said, I'm trying to promote the superior race. That's what he actually said, which means that by default, he thinks Jews are an inferior race. Yeah. So in terms of European culture, that's the way they saw themselves. But Whoopi Goldberg is a black person in America that only knows racism through the lens of American culture. So she thinks as racism as white and black. That's the way that she's experienced racism. That's what was taught to her. That's what, in her mind, racism, like race, the social construct of race, comes from the fact that white people oppress black people. That white people in America is a systematic thing that is used by white people, i.e. white privilege and all those things, to systematically oppress through generations black people. In her mind, that is the lens that she's looking at the word racism as. She's not a world historian. She's not a Holocaust expert.
Here's the thing, though. So you don't need to be a world, like, I understand that, but to say that, like, someone, how old is Whoopi Goldberg?
Oh, I don't
you know
know
what I mean? Like,
she's
an adult.
This was happening when she was young. So like we can't forget, like, all of this was happening in the 50s. But I am 23
years old. I don't need to, you know what I mean? Like, but I mean, you don't, like, what
her
I'm saying
education didn't come the same way that ours did.
It's really hard to believe that, like, we don't know that Jewish people are a race.
But they're not.
They are.
No, because
they
race
ethnic,
in and of itself.
Ashkenazi Jews
that's
is
what
a
I'm
race.
saying.
The thing is, Jewish, though, like in actual like reality, race is literally a social construct.
Okay,
so
okay. Well, if you're gonna go with the argument that we are all one human race,
when we're talking
then this is
about,
a moot point.
Yeah,
like, when we're talking about ethnicities and religion, that's where you start.
But aside from that aside from that meta point of the fact that, like, we all have more in common than we have differences. Aside from that point, the social construct of race still exists because we have to deal with that regardless. Like, I can't just go, I can't just tell the cop, hey, but you know, we're all one race though, right? Like he's still gonna treat me like I'm fucking brown. You know what I mean? So that is intellectually meta, but like in reality, we have to deal with like what's actually happening on the ground. You know what I mean? And to that point, that's why I even had to research this, because when she said it the way that she said it, I don't think that Whoopi Goldberg is anti-Semitic. I don't think that Whoopi Goldberg is trying to say things to harm Jewish people. I don't think that at all. I think that she's misinformed, because even when I heard her say the things, I'm like, you know what? That is true. The Holocaust is white people killing white people, and that's fucking wild. But when I looked into it, I'm like, I didn't know that Ashkenazi Jews is technically a race. I didn't know that. The way that Europeans, especially in 1940 Europe, Germany, at that fact, the way they viewed themselves culturally, sociologically, societally, is vastly different. It couldn't be more different than 1960s Black culture in America. It just couldn't be. It's nowhere near the same. And when you put context to those words, then I understand what Whoopi meant. I don't think Whoopi was trying to be harmful towards, or be like, downplay the Holocaust or downplay a Jewish struggle. Sure. I think she was trying to make a different kind of point, and then people harped on that because anti-Semitism is real, and and especially Jewish people in their struggle, they're the most persecuted religious group in the world globally. So whenever they hear things like that, they are in their mind culturally, the way that they bring their children up, and the way that, and then their history, how they teach themselves. They are constantly talking about, like, this can happen again. This happened once, and this can happen again. So we as a culture need to stick together, as a religion need to stick together, and all these things. That's why there's all these like ridiculous, silly tropes about Jewish people at large, right? But back to the cancel culture thing, she got suspended from The View, and I think that was a missed opportunity. I think that was a missed opportunity, simply because here you have a person that you clearly know is a tolerant person. This is a person that advocates for humanity, that advocates for human rights, that advocates for that has a deep love for people because of her struggle and her generation's struggle. Like, this is somebody that there's clear evidence of this, right? And people like the mob goes after her, and then the media executives say, like, okay, well, we're gonna have to create a consequence to your actions and suspend her, when I think the more valuable thing to do would have been get a Jewish person on the channel, or on the View. Get a Jewish person to explain in depth why these nuances are so important, and to contextualize the decontextualization that Whoopi had in her words. That way, not only could it be a learning moment for Whoopi, and she could have been like, yo, bro, like, wild. I just learned something. People, like, read your history books, because clearly even me as an older person that's gone through some crazy shit, I still have a lot to learn. So please, people, like, you know what I mean? It could have been such a great example of what it means to rise above to that lesson to be learned. And millions of other people might have also been confused about that fact, and then learned all together, despite the fact that other people might have been like, oh, well, now you're just trying to, like, appease, like, like, whatever the hell. Like, it could have been a great moment, as opposed to suspending her, not having the full dialogue, not having the full conversation, and missing that incredibly powerful moment of knowledge to be had in that circle, but then, like, nationwide as a whole. Like, imagine the warmth that Whoopi might have felt if her colleagues, if the people on her side of the political aisle, if the people that she offended are, like, welcoming her more warmly. Not saying that she doesn't deserve to have some sort of consequence, but more that have taken her redemption just a little bit with more consideration. Well, and then she would have been able to come back with more reflection. She would have been able to be like, look, I still feel protected by I still stand with all these people. And I think that in certain situations, when people get canceled and their life turns to shit, when they don't take that opportunity to learn and to welcome that person back, one, I think it makes the left specifically kind of hypocrites, because we praise tolerance. We praise the fact that we are willing to let people rehabilitate themselves and learn from their mistakes and push forward. So if we can't allow people to then have that back when they make a mistake, then it just makes us hypocrites. And then secondly, it creates a funnel between the fact that right-wing media can then say, look at what they did to you. They don't give a fuck. Like, and that is how a streamline of people end up being coerced by right-wing ideology because now they have a deep emotional distaste, sour taste in their mouth, whatever it is, or even anger towards a specific group of political in the political aisle because they weren't given a chance to just fully be like, yo, I did make a mistake. I'm an adult. I can make a fucking mistake, but let's learn together. Let's figure this out. Now, that also being said, the reason why I brought up the tears earlier is because I think people trying to cancel Whoopi or trying to like suspend Whoopi, I think that's a grave mistake. I think somebody like Chris Brown may not need that kind of like warmth back.
But
you know what I mean? So I do think that there's levels to it.
Those are tiers of like offenses, though.
Right,
and you were talking earlier. No, I think there's no tiers for me in abuse. Like any abuse is abuse to me. It doesn't fucking matter how big. Right. To the point of Whoopi, like I understand what you're saying of being like, I just realized I still have my work lanyard. Go I understand what you're saying of being like, well, maybe this could have been a learning experience for everybody. Obviously, like, whenever you were talking about it, I could only see it from my point of view of being like, I've always known that. Not that I've always known that, but, like, that has always been, like, a commonly known thing to me. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that was just, like, universal knowledge. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? So it was hard for me to, like, really, like, believe, I guess, that, like, somebody who has had, like, you know, a lot of education, or actually, I don't know if that's even true, so I'm not even gonna speak out of my ass. But you know what I mean? That somebody who is an adult, who is culture, who knows a lot, wouldn't know that when that is, like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's literally what the Holocaust was about. It was them being like, oh, you think that they're white, but they're not. Like, they're not like us. So right. It's kind of, and it's, the point is that whether she knew that or not, it was such an irresponsible remark.
Yeah, it was intellectually irresponsible.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
That it's like, I understand that cancel culture, it's toxic in a lot of ways, and it just doesn't even achieve what it wants to achieve anyway. You know what I mean? Like, nobody has been actually, I don't remember the last person that was actually canceled. You know what I mean? Like, that hasn't even really been a thing. You know what I mean? Like, people have been trying to cancel Chris Brown for fucking years.
Kathy Griffin.
She did.
Kathy Griffin you can't hear from her at all.
Yeah,
Aziz Ansari, I mean, he still has he has money so he can fund his own shit, but like, he's virtually not. And his offense wasn't even that bad either. He just had a bad date.
I will say on the cancel culture thing, like you said, I don't think it does what it's supposed to do, but it does draw out the people who want to talk about the issues a little bit more based off of, like, you know, like, once people found out about Chris Brown, abuse was talked about a little bit more in the media. And now with Whoopi, based off of that, there's actually now been a lot of conversation about why the Holocaust hasn't been taught correctly. And how only 22 states require kids or anybody to be taught about the Holocaust.
Like, what the fuck
that
is
means
going on in the American
in terms
education
of,
system?
like,
What the fuck are we doing
It's
here?
run by Republicans who don't want people.
To be fair, I'm not necessarily sure that, like, right-wing American political
they just banned the book Mouse.
Yes,
from
Tennessee. I did know that.
So there has been a bit of limitation on talking about that only because
I'm not entirely convinced though that, like, right-wing politicians are trying to ban German history. I think
because the thing is, we are associating it to be like German history, but as our generation is now associating it between white power and racism. So we're not associating it to just Germans. We're associating it and relating it to the people now.
So maybe they're trying to silence that.
So now people are like, well, maybe let's not talk about that, so they don't notice that we're doing the same thing with our people now. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's becoming a bigger topic, which is in a way good because now we're actually talking about it.
In terms of the issues being talked about, or in terms of American education, we've got plenty of shit to worry about in terms of our history. To like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily be too shocked if like the American school system didn't spend enough time on the Holocaust and its nuances. Sure. Like, you know, because we've got plenty of shit that in our history that's not fun, that's not cute. You know what I mean? But
well, to that point also is I understand what you're saying of like, well, maybe it could have been like a moment for education, you know, and I feel like that's kind of tricky to like ask of the group that you just offended to be like, oh, but no, come and teach me because I don't know. Obviously, like, that's what you would want. Like, that's, you know, but it's kind of hard to, like, now put the responsibility on somebody who just offended.
No. Plus, I'm not saying, like, it's up to Jewish people to teach Whoopi. I'm saying that the media company, the media company.
But that would still require, like, you're saying, like, oh, maybe we should bring in a Jewish person to, like, it's like to explain to them that they're like, you can do your own research, you know what I mean? And sure. I'm not, again, like, I don't think Whoopi Goldberg should be like canceled and out of work for that. Right. And I don't think that she will be. But at the end, and I understand that it wasn't her intention, but that doesn't mean just because her intention wasn't bad doesn't mean that like the impact wasn't bad. You know, it's like intent 100%. Versus like impact, and you can't. Like, if I rear end somebody, I can't be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. Like, of course I'm gonna say that, but also like I do gotta give them my insurance card, right? And they have to follow. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That it sucks, and it wasn't my intention, and it sucks that I now have to. But that's, you know what I mean? If you are on a platform, specifically when you're like on a show where the entirety of the show is like you and your opinions, like. Yeah, you have to be that much more careful. And it sucks that when, you know, if it was like a moment of ignorance of something that you really didn't mean to like hurt anyone, but that is so deeply irresponsible and offensive, it's like, well, then maybe you need to take a break from that.
Yeah,
you know
I'm not opposed to her having to have some sort of absence to some degree. What I'm saying is that there has been no dialogue happening in terms of her proving that she can be redeemed. And in that sense, to your point
what kind of dialogue do you expect? You know what I mean?
I would have liked, like, I went and did the research about why, how Ashkenazi Jews, and there's other ethno-religious groups all around the world.
Sure.
But I would have been really pleased if the video right after that was The View. Here's why we explain why Whoopi's Goldberg. Like, it would have just been a much better. It would have just been a much better transition, and it would have showed a lot of maturity and depth from not only her coworkers, not only herself, but the program as a whole, the executives
but you're
as a whole.
expecting a lot of like a media company that like they didn't suspend Whoopi Goldberg because they thought that it was like the right thing to do. They suspended her because they knew that there was controversy around her, and they didn't want to lose viewers because then they lose money. They don't care. Sure. And to expect them to be like, we're going to take this opportunity, that's not going to happen. I think the redemption for like, I don't think
that's why I don't like cancel culture.
But that doesn't have to do with cancel culture. That has to do with corporations, babe. Like, they don't need to do that.
If people weren't trying to cancel her, they wouldn't do that.
But they're not trying to, I don't think that people are trying to cancel her. They're just saying, hey, this was irresponsible. And I think that, again, like, I think the normal response would be to be like, okay, well, maybe you need to take a break from this because, like, you can't say that. You know what I mean? Like, that was not okay for you to say, and we can't have that on the show. That can't fucking happen. Mm-hmm. I don't think that has to do with people canceling her and being like, you should never work again. It should just be like, okay, well, like, you need to
a little break.
You need
reflect.
a break. Exactly. You need to reflect, and that also takes time. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna take time and then
once that like, time is done,
exactly.
Like, I would like to have a conversation. To your point about like, it's not Jewish people's responsibilities to teach people about what happened. Like, yes, I understand that. I understand how it wouldn't necessarily be a Jewish person's responsibility to go and teach. Like, you're an adult, you can go research. But I'm telling you, at least for me, this is just me. as somebody that grew up the way that he grew up, that is Mexican American, that does have a certain experience, when I do have the opportunity to talk to people about my experience, I don't say, well, you need to have been learned about me.
Absolutely.
I'm saying like no, like, hey, here, like sit down with me.
But that's what I'm saying. That's like, that comes from your personal willingness. You know what I mean? Like, as an immigrant, absolutely, I'll tell people about like asylum and like refugees and whatever. Like, of course I am, because I want other people to know about it. Yeah. But if somebody demanded of me, to say like, well, I didn't know about that, and like you didn't tell me, so like why don't you actually like explain it to me? It's like, I don't have to explain shit to you. What?
Right. Yeah. Well, if it was said in that way,
you know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean. It's like, you can't expect it of them. It's like, as a minority, you can understand.
Well, I'm sure the View would have asked somebody and be like, "Are you willing to come on the show?" And somebody might have been like, "Yeah," or somebody might be like, "No, I don't want to contribute to that conversation."
I feel like. Because Whoopi did put out an apology before they even suspended her, and then they suspended her after. I still think that she should have been suspended, because people do still want to see like repercussions for your actions. So if you did something wrong, like, okay, you need a break, you need a suspension. And I think that's fine. And Whoopi put out an apology, and she acknowledged what it was that she said wrong, because she did then educate herself.
Sure.
I think the idea of bringing somebody on to The View would be to educate the watchers, you know, not necessarily for Whoopi,
because there was a lot of people like when I went, because I saw it like almost in real time. Like, I went on Twitter, and then Whoopi Goldberg was trending, and I forgot that Meghan McCain. This is how like out of touch. I forgot that Meghan McCain was not on The View anymore. And
they're not.
Meghan McCain's not on The View anymore. And when she was on The View, I used to love seeing Whoopi trend, because it was always like Whoopi like puts Meghan McCain in her place. And so I was all like, yo, man, my girl Whoopi did like fucked it up again. Yeah. And then I saw what happened, and I was like, oh, like that's not. I wasn't expecting this one. Yeah. So then when I saw it in real time, there was a lot of people you know, adding her, you know, in general, there was more people than not saying like, I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand why what she said was so controversial.
Well, and I feel like that's...
Maybe that goes to your point about like the Holocaust not being taught right in American school system.
Sure.
Right? And so but that's exactly why at that point, if there's a good portion, I'm not even gonna say it's the majority, because that was just in real time. Like, you know what I mean? It might have been collectively, now it might be, you know, it might be different. But if you're seeing that there's a lot of people that are like confused about what that specific thing is, take the opportunity.
I feel like it's hard to
let's have this conversation.
I feel like it's hard to use this specific situation as like an example of cancel culture. Number one, because again, I don't think that Whoopi Goldberg was canceled, and I don't think she's gonna be canceled, and I don't think she needs to be canceled. But also, when you're talking about like issues that are particular to a community, I feel like that's like, I can have an opinion about it, but I am not Jewish. Therefore, I don't get to say if it was like how offensive it was, or like how long, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's kind of hard, because chances are that the people that were being like, yo, what the fuck did she just say? Like, what? Like, this can't happen, were people who are Jewish, you know what I mean? And to that point, it's kind of hard. Like, I understand a lot of people being like, oh, I didn't realize that was that was problematic. I didn't realize why it was offensive. And I do think, obviously, like, there's a lot to be said there about the lack of knowledge and the lack of like education regarding that specific topic. But again, like, the Holocaust is such a sensitive, it was such a huge like tragedy. It's such a sensitive, like, delicate topic to talk about, that like, if that community affected by it is saying that can't fucking work, sure, you can choose to take that opportunity upon yourself to be like, oh, why? Like, why was it offensive, and what can we learn from this? Right. But that's it. There is no like going against like cancel culture, and because it's not, I don't think that counts as part of cancel culture. It doesn't, because it doesn't have to do with this like silly little offense that like people were just like, how can you say that? It's like, no, like, that affected like a very, like, in a very real way, it like affected a specific community.
To the point that you just made about like, I'm not Jewish and like I can't really say, there was also quite a bit of Jewish people from all around the world that were not Ashkenazi Jews that were like, yeah, I don't see an issue either. Because also,
sure, but that's,
there's like
there's
like 1.3 billion Jews all in the world, and not every that's the part that was so enlightening to me when I researched it.
Yeah.
Not every Jew is a race. Like not every Jew can say like that's your race.
Yeah.
There are Jews in Argentina. There
Correct.
are Jews in Mexico. There are Jews in Nigeria. There's Jews everywhere, and only some of them are Ashkenazi Jews or Jews that can be ethno-religious, and others just practice Judaism, which is they're still Jewish. So
sure,
and that was such an enlightening. I didn't know that, you know?
But to that point, it's like you have already established that like there's ethnic people. There's people that are Jewish because of their ethnicity and their race, and there's people that are Jewish because of the religion that they practice. Mm-hmm. And again, like the people that she offended weren't the people that are just practicing Jews. They were the people who identify and are racially or ethnically identify as Jews. Yeah. So that's not to say that they're like they're levels to being Jewish or anything like that, obviously. But to the point, it's like, right, those people were not offended by it because those people were not the ones feeling erased.
Right. And to that point, I also saw that, and we're not going to dive into this specific point, but just to like show the depth of like diversity in this conversation, I also saw some Jews and some people comment about this thing and was like, I'm not really sure how I feel about this whenever like Israeli Jews themselves oppress Palestine. And,
sure.
and things like that. And I was like, so like, I'm not going to participate in this conversation overall. So we're not going to dive into that specific point. Yeah. But that's why I brought up the like tears thing, because I was all like, I do. And it just reminded me of cancel culture. Maybe you're right. Maybe this isn't about cancel culture at all in terms of Whoopi, but it reminded me that whenever we were transitioning into this conversation about, was like, you know, I personally believe, to your credit, that a lot of times cancel culture doesn't get the job done. And I wish that parallel to cancel culture, there was a redemption culture that we could all, like, in some way, shape, or form, understand that exists. Because if it's just one and it just lives in a vacuum, I think, like you said, is counterproductive. If there is the other, then I think there could be an actual learning experience for society as a whole. That being said, you mentioned the book banning, the mouse, you know, and I think to some degree, like To Kill a Mockingbird got banned and stuff like that. I have a hot take when it comes to that, and I am actually not that concerned with book banning.
What do you mean?
I'm not like, I understand the sentiment, and my gut reaction is to be really upset that like these wonderful, great books are like not being taught in schools, because I think they're incredible learning lessons for youth and people as a whole.
There are so many books in the world that, like, just pick another one.
But here's the thing, here's why I don't really have an issue with it. The moment that you tell me, or the moment that even as a parent, the moment that you hear somebody say, you can't read that, read it to your kid.
So what do you, okay, that is true.
Go pick up Mouse.
100%
Go pick up
true.
To Kill a Mockingbird,
so
and read it to your kid.
Because right now, the reason why it's such a hot topic is because of the race theory, not being taught in schools.
Yeah.
But they're banning these particular books in southern states where majority of the kids going there with, not majority, but a lot of the parents there don't want their kids to learn about race.
That's true.
So they're essentially raising more kids that are going to be ignorant to the problems of the world.
The problem with that is that even if that book was taught in school and that kid would have learned that, and the kid would have been like, this is their parent would have been like, that's bullshit.
But that's not necessarily true, because you're a different,
we were raised by Catholic parents.
Sure, but our parents are also extremely progressive.
No, but that doesn't take away from the fact that our parents have really, really, really conservative values that I no longer
they have traditional views, but they're also incredibly progressive.
But think about all of the views that your parents had that they would have wanted you to share, that you're like, nah, you cannot convince me that that's what I believe.
There's a lot of views that our parents share that they don't, like, for instance, there's a lot of views that I have that my parents do not want me to have.
Like which one?
Like abortion. I've mentioned
our mother probably yes, our father will be okay.
Absolutely
but it doesn't
not.
matter.
Our father has both of them have specifically told me that they believe that it is a sin. Even our father who is way more progressive than our mother, is like, how could you do that? You could never do that. You should never do that to a kid. How could you possibly ever even consider it? Okay. When I was completely under the impression that he would be a little bit more about it.
But the difference there is that our parents did not raise us to follow their footsteps. They 100% told us to find our own way.
A lot of these families here.
And if you told them that you're for abortion, they would not disown you.
But you have to remember the fact that like we as immigrant kids, we're like kids of immigrant parents, are living a very different lifestyle from kids who were born here, raised here, 100%. Families of generational here. 100%. So to them, getting just an inkling of information about the Holocaust could be very vital in changing history as opposed to us.
100%.
Well, if we get taught about the Holocaust, we can relate it to our own experiences as immigrant children. Thus, our views are already way more progressive than theirs would ever be. But theirs, even just having a black friend is going to change their life. So erasing a book just because they don't want people to know about the Holocaust can be a huge ripple effect. Even if it's just tiny. It can have a ripple
effect. But what I'm saying that even if you, like if you're that kind of kid that might find some sort of like curiosity and might feel like some sort of like doubt in your mind about like the way that you live your life or something like that. Like the moment that you see that something's not being given to you, go find it.
But that's not how kids work, though.
How would they know that it's being banned for them?
Exactly. Like, that's not how...
Because it's on the news right now.
Kids don't watch the news. Kid is looking at the fucking news to see what books are getting banned from their school. Like, you're thinking of this in such an idealistic way.
No.
And that is not the way that
how many kids in the school system right now are actually reading as a whole to where the majority of kids don't give a fuck about books?
Sure, but it doesn't matter because when I sit in school, even though I don't want to fucking be there, I am getting new information that I wouldn't have fucking gone out to look for. And that information, some of that information, I was like, holy shit, no fucking way. Seriously? And then I start paying attention. So yeah, it's not like those kids are dying to get their fucking like parents' views challenged.
Right.
But that's the point of fucking school, as you go and it's a safe space and you like learn shit that you wouldn't have wanted to go out. No fucking kid is going to school being like, I want to learn about whatever.
Well,
that gives you the opportunity to those kids that are also sheltered, and because those parents, you're saying like, well, then those parents would have taught them like against it already, so it doesn't matter. But the thing about, especially like, I don't want to say millennial parents, but a lot of parents in the South and a lot of families in the South, they're not necessarily teaching their kids to be explicitly racist, but they're ingraining very like subtle racist ideologies. Therefore, in their head, they're not teaching them to be racist, but the second that they see that they're gonna point out all the things that they have been ingraining in them that are racist, they just haven't called it that, and it's much harder for them to identify it as that, then that's where the fucking problem begins.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that's what critical race theory is doing. Right. And that's why they don't want to they don't want it in the school.
I'm with you
so
there 100%.
Those parents are not, of course they're not going to go out there and teach it on their own, because the point is that they don't want their fucking kids to know about it, because that would crumble so much of the way that they were raised and the ideas that were put in them.
I get all of that.
That they don't want it to be challenged.
I get all of that 100%. Yeah, I get that. I get where that comes from. I just don't think that impact in this moment with today's culture, with the way kids are, with TikTok culture, with social media, with all this, I don't think that the absence of a book is going to the reason why we had a Donald Trump presidency is because the education system is fucked from the very beginning. So the idea that there could be people like me who I really enjoyed reading, I remember To Kill. I think Scout is like an amazing character. I think Atticus is an amazing character. Steinbeck is phenomenal. My favorite author is T.S. Eliot. Like, yes, there might be somebody like me out there that might grab at the leaves, at the fruit coming out of this tree in subtle ways, and then find themselves or find like a deep love for it. Yes, 100%. That might happen. But as a whole, even when we were in school, like the people I went to school didn't give a fuck about that shit, whether they taught the book or not, whether the book was present, whether the book was not present. But what was impactful is that even at the school that we went to, which was it was woke before woke was a thing. Our school was like super woke before woke was a thing. So what was impactful is that there were kids there whose parents had subtle racist ideologies that came from the suburbs and things like that. Those things absolutely did exist. And those kids, just by being around me, got a little taste of it. And the parents, like our parents, that encouraged further learning, that encouraged, despite the fact that their values might differ from us, that parents that were like, no, we're going to teach you this, and you're going to go out and you're going to be an example for this virtue, for this thing. That did happen, and that made the difference. The book itself being taught
but you're
there
talking about
was not necessarily
schools,
what
though.
made the
you're
difference.
You're not talking about Mobile, Alabama, where this will never be.
But
I get
also,
that
like,
100%. If you were to tell me the solution to end all of this is for you as a person to go make friends with people that are not like you, I'm 100% for that. That's an actionable thing. You can teach somebody to go do that. You can teach a kid. You can find a big brother, big sister program somewhere where you yourself can do that. That's an actionable thing. But the idea that these young children are going to enjoy reading, first of all, because that's not a fucking thing.
That's you don't go to fucking school to be like, I'm going to enjoy reading this fucking book. And nobody is they don't assign books because they think we fucking enjoy them. They assign books because they're necessary. Good tools to get those kids to realize that. So yeah, to that point, there are kids that don't go to diverse schools, and those books are giving them that world that they are not fucking seeing.
100%.
And it's so, and
to your point, pick another one. Mouse is not the only Holocaust book.
Well, yeah, of course.
Anne Frank is not the only Holocaust book.
The issue is the minute that they ban one, they'll start banning more. Because more people will be like, well, I mean, does it really matter if they ban one?
Exactly.
So what about the other ones that they start banning? Let's say it's not just about the Holocaust. Let's say they start talking about MLK. Let's say they start talking about the Chicano movement. Let's say they start talking about all of these other movements that are very important.
They're banning the topics. They're not banning the books.
Sure. I get that. And I don't think that that's going to be in this country, I don't think that that's going to be a dramatic ripple the way that you think it might be, because there are way too many people that understand the value that you're just saying. If you understand that that's happening, you're going to then be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is when I build a family, when I build these things, this is what we're going to do.
But you're thinking about it from the point of view of the people who do want the books in school.
Well, yeah, exactly. And
that's not what the books are there for. You know what I mean? They're not the point of teaching those things is to challenge those who are not who don't subscribe to that belief system.
It's not for people who think
like you. I get that 100%. But I've seen more people
are not going to go out of their fucking way because they don't want the book in their kid's life. That book, though, being a part of that kid's curriculum, is gonna give them
but a might is better than nothing.
Chance at least of challenging those views that they were taught. And that's the fucking point.
Yes, I get that 100%. But I'm saying that the hope is not lost because there are plenty of people that believe what we believe, that we're going to be out there.
But nobody's worrying about those kids.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? With that, I feel like you're looking at this from the point of view of somebody who lives in the city. Around people that have a lot of different ideas and the opportunity to meet another person that has a different idea than your own.
You're thinking about the kids that you already expect to be progressive,
or not even progressive. I'm sure here in Houston there could be a lot of people that come from different backgrounds than us and have different ideas than us, and maybe are more on the conservative side, but they have the opportunity of going to school with people that are more liberal, or having a quote unquote big brother
an impact, exposure.
But again, going to these areas that aren't in these big cities and have basically an entire town that thinks the same way. 100%. If in their curriculum they have a book that forces them to talk about the things that they don't want to have to teach their kids about,
exactly,
then it's going to be able to possibly open up some of them kids' eyes.
Maybe, except if Mobile, Alabama, for example, if Mobile, Alabama is that homogenous, it's not getting taught anyway. Those people weren't getting that information anyway.
But maybe they have
and
that
that's and that's the problem I have with the education system as a whole, is that in these little pockets of the country, you're not getting the right information anyway. They haven't been getting the right information for 50 plus years. Why are you mad about it now? Like they haven't. That's why something like a Donald Trump 2016 presidency happened, because there's an ability to capitalize on the miseducation of large portions of voters that have more weight power in their vote than people that are in progressive cities, and that has been happening for decades.
But that's to say that people
that
have
book
also
is not being taught there, regardless of whether it's in the curriculum or not.
Okay,
but number one is that, do you know that for a fact? Number two, then are we assuming that other people have not been advocating for those things to change for as long as they have been like wrong? You know what I mean? Like,
no,
you're saying oh, why are you mad about it now? It's like, who's saying they're mad about it now? I'm sure there's been a lot of people who have been advocating for that shit for years.
And to that point, I'm not like the biggest like proponent for like the like social media in certain aspects, but I do think social media plays an incredible part in this specific type of thing, because anybody can get on Twitter. Any kid from Mobile, Alabama can get on Twitter and Instagram and all these things. So if they even see it there, they're gonna be like, what the fuck is all the commotion about?
But that's like, I understand that social media gives you the opportunity to like reach other people and other communities that you're not a part of, but that's not necessarily like a given. You know what I mean?
100%.
Because if you're if you're following and the people that you follow are all subscribe to, like, you can
you
still
might be
create,
in an echo chamber.
You can still create like your own little world virtually. You know what I mean? So that's not like, you can't be like, oh, well, those kids are gonna be on social media, so they're gonna see it anyway. And if that's, you know what I mean? Like, if they're gonna change their mind, there's gonna be other ways for them to change their mind. That's not necessarily true. But even if there is, like, it's also not wrong to advocate to keep creating more spaces to challenge those views.
100%.
I also want to go back to the point that you were talking about. Even if we're talking about, you know, kids that are in, you know, neighborhoods that we live in, you know, in bigger cities and stuff. Even if these books are taken out, you say that, you know, their parents or other people around them should kind of step up and do that teaching instead.
They should, yeah. But
the issue then comes, I mean, maybe they're living with a single parent, or maybe they, you know, are around people that have that time to give that education. And at the end of the day, what is it that we expect our school system to do? And I think that's what it comes down to, is the idea of like, what is our school system doing for our kids if they are taking that away from them?
I agree.
Like, you're supposed to be the one educating them on this stuff.
To be fair,
and now you're saying that you're not going to do that.
I'm not saying that I'm for book banning. I'm saying that I don't think the book banning is going to create the bigger ripple effect that people. I think book banning in the 1950s was a lot more drastic than book banning now.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's still not an issue.
It might still have a negative effect, but I'm saying it's not going to have the most negative effect that it used to have. I'm saying that because even if you are a single parent, I don't care if I'm a single parent. If I have a child, my job is to educate that child to the best of my ability.
Sure.
Whether they're in school or whether they're not. Whether they're in private school or whether they're in public school. That is my job as a parent. Yes. So if I see something wrong, then I'm going to say, hey, let me go ahead and learn you something real quick. Like, because we have time, fucking a bedtime story or some shit.
I think the fear is right now is that since it's being banned in a lot of states,
rural southern states,
rural states like Alabama doesn't necessarily have like a super big city. They are now posing these questions in a state like Texas, where Texas does have bigger cities like Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, all these bigger cities with inner city kids and whatnot that do maybe know a little bit more about it like we do. But even then, we didn't really actually learn too much about it. If we actually look back at it, they sort of talked about it. I sort of read Mouse. I ended up learning about it later on in the future per my own looking into it. Mm-hmm. But well, I think where people are fearing, because I have a lot of friends and or knowing people that are teachers, they are afraid of the fact that if it's being banned all over the state, it will be banned in schools like the HISD district, where even if you are an inner city child, teachers will no longer be allowed to talk to you about it. So even if a kid does want to ask a teacher like, hey, I read this book, what about it? They're technically no longer allowed to talk to you about it. Thus creating this idea of like, I have to pretend like it doesn't exist when I want to tell everybody about it.
Yeah.
And teachers know about it a little bit more than we do because obviously they're teachers.
Because they went to school, they learned some shit, they went to college.
That's why a lot of people are fearing the book bans,
yeah.
because fearing a book ban could also mean restricting, like, you know, history books, changing history books to only
but they've been changing history books. That's the point that I'm making.
We get that. But
even our history books right now, you learn it
like
right
now.
in
They're trying to include more right now.
You don't want them to be worse. That's the, you know what I mean? Like, that's the point. It's not, we get it. The education system is shit. Those books are not, you know what I mean? Like, they're not changing everyone's fucking lives. But the point is that if it's already fucking bad, no, you don't get to fucking make it worse. And also, like, school, like, you're thinking about it from, like, kids who go to school and then go home to, like, mommy and daddy who are raising them. That is not the case for everybody.
100%,
not every fucking parent has the time to sit down and do homework with their kids.
Get that. And that's
for a
tragic
lot of
too,
them, yeah, that's tragic. Therefore, as sad as it is, as tragic as it is, school is the only place that those kids are gonna get those, like, ideas. It's the only place that those kids are gonna get that knowledge. It's the only place that those kids are gonna get that education.
It might be the only place that they get exposed to that knowledge.
And you're taking it away from them.
It might be the only place that.
And that's the point.
But the sad truth, again, another sad truth to that, if that is a sad truth, which I agree, the other sad truth to that is that even if that is there, it will get consumed very little.
But those kids still matter.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Like, I matter. I learned it, and I matters. Yeah, 100%.
When we sit here and we're like, but how important is it? It's like, to us, it might not be important because we already went through it, and because also we already know that.
Right.
We don't need to be taught. Well, not to say we don't need to be taught more. We can always learn more, but you know what I mean? Like, that is not a priority for us. But to a kid who is starting to go to school and who doesn't know shit, like, that might be make or break. Even if it's just one kid out of a school of 500, it doesn't matter. To that kid, it probably was make or break.
100%.
And that's why it's important. Like, there is, you know what I mean?
And chances are they're going to get it, if not at school, they'll get it somewhere. They'll get it somewhere.
You are literally a monster.
No, because I didn't get some of that at school. I got it somewhere.
Stop. Nobody's talking about you.
But I am an example.
Sure,
you got it somewhere. You didn't get everything
example.
in school. She got it. She gets it from me.
But I got a lot of it at school. You know what I mean? But I got a lot of it at school. And also, it's not just about my experience.
Yeah.
That's the point.
I've also gotten stuff from
inner city immigrant kid.
Experience.
You're not a kid in the middle of middle Texas.
I get that.
But you don't, because you're still fighting against it. That's what I'm saying. It's like you are only seeing it from your point of view of, like, I didn't learn that from school. I learned that from this. And if this kid is like this, then it's gonna work out. And if not, then it's gonna be like this and it's still gonna work out. And that's not the fucking truth for everybody.
I think the point that I'm making is that when it comes to these specific topics, like the book banning topic, I think people have I think that people think schools over deliver, and
I think it's
I just don't think that that's true.
I think it's the opposite. I think people are saying schools under deliver. Like, you're not fucking doing enough and now you want to do less? Like, how the fuck does that make any sense? I think that's the problem.
I don't think that they should ban the book. Is what I don't think so. I think the book is great.
And I think, but you say, like, you're not against book banning, but you seem to just have a very, like you don't.
I don't think that the banning of it is going to create the bad ripple that it would have made in the 50s. I think that
who's talking about the 50s though?
I'm talking about the 50s.
What conversation are you in?
Because book banning is such a big deal because things like Nazi Germany banned books and they didn't have access to anything else but that. We have access to everything. We have access to absolutely everything.
So let's say, because I think the topic where we're lying at us here is the fact that we believe restriction of one thing means starting the restriction of something else and or opening up the conversation.
That's the fear. That
is the fear, and it has happened though, because they feared that after starting the critical race theory thing, more things were going to start to kind of trickle down.
Yeah,
and it has with the book banning. So to that point, it has started. It has started at least in some states, and it has already started or been in some states. That's why it's been happening. So to that point, the idea that you say that maybe book banning is not that bad of a thing because we have the internet. Let's say we move into a world where the people start to restrict what's on the internet. Because if you continue to give power to the people who are restricting your books, would that give them power to start restricting other things?
And I think ultimately I think ultimately the right is conditioning a portion of America to be less informative so that they can continue having that weighted power because make no mistake about it, there are more people that are progressive than there are conservative people. That is a fact. Just factually speaking, one voter in Omaha weighs a lot more than one voter in Houston, Texas. So there is a lot more. We are a majority by far, by millions of people. By millions of people. So yes, I do think that right-wing politicians with power are trying to slowly maneuver themselves so that the misinformed, uneducated voter that will vote for them again weighs more consistently. I get that, and I agree with that 100%. And I do think that the solution of it is a radical change of political discourse, i.e. money in politics, i.e. a more maybe a third party or whatever radical form might end up being in that route. I don't think that something like a book ban is going to get us. If anything, I think it might create a more outrage from the majority of people that already exist, and then will lead them out to potentially
would you believe you're part of that outrage
though?
Would you believe you're part of that outrage? Because from what it sounds like, all three of us are part of the outrage, and you're just kind of like, you're good guys.
And also, again, like you say, like, well, back in the 50s or the 40s, when all these things were happening, it was because of a lack of books, but we have access to so many things. Again, not everybody has access to the internet.
Sure. Yeah.
So again, those kids still matter. Yeah. And the only place that they're going to get that information is in school. Like, majority of people have internet access. Not majority of people have unrestricted internet access, and not everybody has internet. So for us to be like, but it's not going to be that big of an effect because all of these people are going to be able to get that information, and it doesn't matter. It's like saying like, well, those people, they're not that big, so it doesn't fucking matter to them. That's not fucking true. You can't, like, especially when it comes to kids, it's like you can't be like, well, these kids are the majority and these kids are the minority, and so sorry, like, that's not as important. Like, you can't do that.
Wait, you lost me.
You gotta keep up, man.
You lost me. To your point, I would say that I'm part of that outrage because when I get to vote, I would vote for somebody that is against that. Even though I personally,
but are you advocating for it though?
Huh?
Are you advocating for it?
With my vote, I would.
But that's not the only.
I don't have to be
advocate.
loud about what I believe in for me to advocate in something.
What do you think advocating is?
Voting. You can vote. I can
Isn't
say
that
it.
just like? I feel like
I can say it all day long, but if I don't vote, what good was that conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think voting is part of it, but also I think advocating is like you're trying to make a case for it so that also other people who might be on the fence, who might be ignorant about it, who might not understand why it is so important, and they can be like, you know what, you're fucking right, that is important.
And there are certain things that I might be more vocal about, but there are some things that I might be like, no, I believe that's a fair point, and I do want that to happen, but I'm not necessarily too learned about it, but I'm still going to vote for a candidate that might be an advocate for that.
Okay, and that's the thing. I think it's okay to be, like, I guess, quiet about what it is that you believe in if you don't necessarily want to throw yourself into being loud and advocating for it verbally. But I still think you have to be careful about choosing your words when you're talking about something that you want to say, like, oh yeah, no, I don't agree with book banning, but then when you go on to say, oh, well, I don't think book banning is as big of an issue as it is, like,
that's contradictory.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you might have a point there. I might come back and say you're absolutely right with that.
But I'm not gonna do it right
now. Not at this moment because I haven't found enough information to prove that that's actually right. If anything, I have found more information of people, authors, teachers, people all over the country that have taught. When I looked that up, that are saying, you know what? Read the books anyway. That's your cue to go read the book. The moment
fucking shit, Sherlock. Like, anybody could have come up with that fucking solution. What about the kids that don't have access to those books?
Because if it's not in their school, it's not in their library. If it's not in their library, it's not in their bookstore.
Are public libraries tied to what's in school? No, public libraries just have books.
You think a 7-year-old has a library card?
No. I'm just saying, like, if just because your school doesn't have it doesn't mean your library doesn't have it.
You open up the doorway for the state to be like, well, since we already banned it in schools, that's just kind of like not having it in the
also,
state.
like, it doesn't matter that they're not
libraries are
banning
federally
it.
funding. They can't.
It doesn't matter if it's
they've already not been
like you're
teaching
thinking
it.
about it. Like we are thinking of, and we're speaking from it from such a privileged fucking position. Because yes, if they don't have it in their school library, where else will they fucking get it? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it would be so much fucking harder. And probably at that age, at that point, that is not their fucking priority. At that age and that point, that is probably not their parents' priority. And it doesn't come from like a bad parent's like point of view necessarily, but like that's a privilege for you to be able to have it taught and to have it handed to you and explained to you in a classroom, in a safe space with a mentor. That's a fucking privilege, and you're taking that privilege away from kids. Like we can't keep thinking about it from like but they can get it somewhere else, or like if I did it then they could. Like that's not how fucking life works. Like not everybody has the same access to the same shit that we had or that we have right now. Not everybody has the same like guidance. Not everybody like that doesn't apply for everyone, and that's the fucking point.
Yeah, I go back to the idea that I look back at my classmates. I look back at the people around me. I look back to how truly impactful some of those things were. And a lot of those people still don't even know what the hell they were taught. So my distrust in it is not in the book ban. It's in the education system as a whole.
We're at an hour and a half.
That's probably where that comes from.
Please, let's end this.
Yeah, we should probably go, huh? It's 8:30 on a Saturday.
It's 8:30.
What time do you have to be somewhere?
Oh my God. It starts at 9. And I have to go home and get ready.
She's going to do karaoke today.
So fucking tired. This is awful. Like, I literally...
Just cut it short. Just leave early.
Well, it ends at 11, but like I'm saying, I have to go home. And like, get ready.
Till next time, guys.
Bye, guys.